This is the Fierce Heart Alliance. Our focus is spirituality with purpose, exquisite self-care, and conscious community. Hi, I'm Summer Sophia Moon, and I've come here to heal myself and chew bubblegum. And guess what? I'm all out of bubblegum. So join me and my special guests as we share and learn how to love ourselves fiercely through self-care and explore the wisdom of the harmonic virtues. These virtues are based on the laws of the universe and channeled wisdom to cultivate more resiliency, purpose, and harmony through self-care and self-awareness. By listening, you are now a fierce heart too. Welcome to the Fierce Heart Alliance. This is the Fierce Heart Alliance, featuring the Harmonic Virtues, a self-reflective practice to understand virtues based on the laws of the universe, ancient teachings, and channeled wisdom. We can apply these virtues to everyday life to fully participate in our personal evolution by cultivating resiliency, purpose, and harmony through self-awareness and self-stewardship. Hi, I'm Summer Sophia Moon, and I've come here to heal myself and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum. So join me and my special guests as we share and learn how to love ourselves fiercely through self-care, explore the wisdom of the harmonic virtues, and grow our conscious community together. By listening, you are now a fierce heart too. Welcome to the Fierce Heart Alliance. Before we begin today's topic, I'd like to say thank you to our listeners. You're always welcome here. Thank you to our ancestors, spirit guides, and friends who are assisting us today. May these words be a force for good and timelessly infused with light and held in the frequency of rose quartz and spread healing and peace around the world. May it connect to both our consciousness and unconsciousness for the highest and most benevolent outcomes for all. If there's any words left unsaid, we trust in spirit to make things right and let it gently ease into our consciousness as necessary for understanding in our own time, in our own way. And so it is. Thank you. Hey Fierce Hearts, today is our integration episode for the virtue of love. Love is located on the inner level of the harmonic virtues called the metaphysical level, which are building blocks of consciousness. Virtues are lessons that can impact our everyday life and relationships. They're ever evolving, ever shifting and developing as we mature, and like a beautiful garden, they require some tending and some management to keep healthy and vibrant. So years ago, I was guided to put love at this level, but then when it came to creating this episode, I wasn't exactly sure why I did it. And then I asked my guides. They had this to say, quote, "What are we supposed to say about love? Yes, love is all we need, and it is who we are as souls. It is our main element of energy. We are love manifested in human form. We reincarnate on the planet to learn about love and all its complexities. The lack of it and the abundance of it is what humans really deeply strive for. Everything is in the pursuit of it or chase after it, but really we are already love in the first place. So it's just our conditioning that disrupts our perception of it. Many have their own filters of what love is from childhood and combined with their own past lives." End quote. So if we all are love at our core, our purpose here is to remember who we really are, which is love. But even still, love seems precarious of how we go about it. Last week, Elise Hammond joined me to talk about the various kinds of love we have in our lives. And this week, we'll discuss love languages and how we give and receive love towards ourselves and others. So first of all, Gary Chapman created a book called The 5 Love Languages. And he's actually built out a website that's got tests and a lot of different content for you and your partner or for you to reflect with yourself. And I think it's a really good basis to start with, but then make it your own. So look at the 5 different love languages. They have words of affirmation, which is compliments and reaffirming or supportive language to others and also yourself. All of these are going to be a caveat to and yourself. So then there's also quality time. So present and non distracted time to bond or connect. And also, you can do that with others and with yourself. And then acts of service. So these are little acts that make the other person feel special or help lighten their burden, acts that make them feel taken care of or that they don't have to do everything themselves. And this could be sending a greeting card, opening a door, cooking a meal, and you're fixing something for them. This often is also done not for attention seeking, but that it's done because it comes from the heart and because you care. And so also acts of service for ourselves. What are little actions that we can do for ourselves to help us feel that way as well? And then gifts is another one. So this could be love notes, random sweet texts, flowers, random gifts just because. They're all different ways to let the person know that you're thinking about them. And then physical touch is another one, that this is typically nonverbal connections in communications, and it could be cuddling, holding hands, hugging, massages, and beyond. And so, once again, all of these things you can do for others, but also you can do for yourself. So, Elise, what kind of love languages do you share with others, and what kind of languages do you give yourself? And do you find that there's a difference at all?
My number one love languages of the 5 love languages is probably physical touch, and then also quality time. And I don't think it differs. I think I'm physical touch and quality time, giving and receiving, and for myself. Okay. The thing that I know, the thing that I'm 100% certain of now, after really exploring self-love, is love is not pie. The more you create, the more you have to give. So, and the other thing is you don't have to give it. You can keep it all for yourself. All of that core energy belongs to you and doesn't belong anywhere else. Take your power back. All that love you've been spreading around to try to get the love you think you need, why don't you just suck that back in? Because it's all your energy that belongs to you. Everybody else has their own. And if they don't, they can create it. It's not pie. You don't just take a slice and there's less of it.
Love is not pie.
It's
Love
not
it,
pie.
yes.
It's more like printing money. It's just energy. And the more energy you focus on it, the more there is. You just print it. You just keep printing it. Mm-hmm. And okay, so with my love languages, I'm printing money. And starting with myself, I would say I'm 40% physical touch on this, on the test, on free online test for love languages. And what I've discovered, I do this thing every day. It's really just meditating, but I go extra like I do with everything. And I call it my cocoon. And I have a pillow nest and fuzzy blankets and my noise canceling headphones and the music that I like. And I really dig into it and visualize and have therapy and have just like built this whole internal world with myself. And it's really amazing what's happened as a result. What I'm getting is this coherent emotional connection with my internal world and kind of with my highest self and my subconscious. And I'm learning this new language of how my subconscious and my sort of emotional self communicates with me. And she's a savage, but she's a sweetheart. Like, I really feel like I've kind of grown myself up emotionally doing this process for years now. It's been a couple of years, but this year I've been really consistent. And somewhere towards the middle of the year, she created a chipper shredder, a mental chipper shredder for intrusive thoughts or anything that's not hers to worry about. And I just started carrying that around with me mentally, where I was just like, oh yeah, I love myself too much to think about something I have no control over and I should stop worrying about. So I was just aggressively putting it in the mental chipper shredder. But that came out of my meditation and cocooning and sort of communing with myself and being physical touch, being really cozy and just really vibing with myself at a high level and going, oh, I don't need to think about that anymore. I'm not going to save that to think about later. I'm going to chipper shredder it. And then more recently, I've been thinking about all of the past ways of being, like in survival mode or anything that was kind of limiting, but it kept me safe. All those past ways of being aren't serving me anymore. And my subconscious goes, the only time I'm a lady is when I lay these hoes to rest, which is a Cardi B song. And I was like, wow, you savage. But also, yeah, like, thank you. You've served me well. Rest in peace. Like, we're moving on now. And just this very emotional integration with myself of like, right, like I appreciate how far I've gotten myself in this journey. And I'm so excited to see what I transform into next. And it's like, okay. And then the most recent image that I've gotten, and I think this is really interesting for me because it really, to me, shows like a lot of emotional maturity just in my conversation with myself. But I basically have really met myself internally and had this conversation with me. And my emotional self is, I'm 42, but my emotional self is probably in her mid-20s. She's learning how to be a grown-up now. She finally has her own place. She's finally figuring out that she belongs in the world. And really that sense of security and belonging is internal, and that we've built it together. And I'm an integrated person, and I feel like I get this real coherence, this real balance between my mind and my heart, my conscious and my subconscious. You know, I've got the roots and I've got the ancestors to thank, but I can sort of let all of that rest in peace and move forward, just having that control over knowing it kind of doesn't matter where I go. I belong there. You know, I have my own security there. It kind of doesn't matter how it turns out. Like, there's nothing too much. I've got this. And just having that, just being able to show up like that for myself and for no other reason, I feel like that's where I'm really seeing this knowing that I love myself, knowing that I've got my own back, knowing that, you know, I don't really need to give it to somebody else. I've got it. I've got this. Or I don't need to get it from somebody else. And so now I'm free to experience physical touch, words of affirmation, like all of it as a bonus instead of something that I need from someone. And the moment I did that, it was externally, I started attracting amazing words of affirmation, amazing acts of service, you know, like everybody just trying to give it to me because they wanted to experience their own expression with me. And they knew that I wasn't going to shut it down. They just knew I was going to love it and just like build on it. So an example of that is I really feel like I attracted a bunch of people who love to talk about food and empowering other women. And it's really funny that they've kind of come up at the same time, but they're people I've known forever. There's people I've known from high school, from way back, that I've just sort of been Facebook friends with, who have reached out to me and gotten really connected with me, who are on the same tracks, who are on the same journeys, who are just pulling for the same stuff. And wherever they are on that path, like I lit up for them as soon as they got on that path. And I love that. I love that that's what I created. I love myself so much that I am a magnet for that energy of like other people loving themselves so much and wanting to heal the world around them. So, yeah. So, with physical touch, the other thing that I've really learned, especially in being non-monogamous, is a lot of guys in the United States don't know how to safely express their love and to feel connected without sex. And so they think they want sex and then we'll get in bed together and they just want to cuddle and like talk. And they're really words of affirmation, guys. They just need to hear that they're wonderful human beings. And like, I'm not getting naked and getting in bed with them if they're not. So that's easy. But like, I would say I have a high sex drive and I'm very physical touch, but I'm also very cuddly and I'm very much about meeting people where they are in that world. And a lot of times, I think a lot, especially men, women are a little different, but especially men surprise themselves when they discover it's not a sexual attraction. They just feel like they need to be seen. And I think traditional monogamous relationships do men a real disservice in not acknowledging their power in that, their ability in that. It kind of shuts them down in a way where they don't get to express like true masculinity. Really, I think toxic masculinity, this is my theory about this. I'm kind of going on a tangent, but I think toxic masculinity is not really a thing. I think what people are describing as toxic masculinity is just a lack. It's a vacuum for masculinity because we aren't recognizing that men can show up as full 3-dimensional human beings. Well, 4-dimensional because it's over time too. If men were allowed to show up in monogamous relationships as full human beings with emotions and capabilities and feelings and a variety of expressions for that, if women were taught that men need to express and to receive these love languages at the same level, because I feel like women were the target for Gary Chapman's book, but men were the ones that needed to experience it the most. Women don't even know guys have feelings beyond anger and horniness. It's real disappointing to go into a non-monogamous chat room and find out that these guys are just feeling neglected because they don't know how to connect. And no one's ever taught them how.
I'm a part of a women's circle, and we're able to sit down and talk about our feelings. And I was angry a couple times when I was sitting there because I was just thinking, I wish men had this. I wish they had the foundation or the opportunity to be feeling individuals and have feelings that are complex that they might not know how to handle and have other abilities to feel these emotions other than anger and sex. I totally agree with you. And I know that there are a couple opportunities for I'm blanking the name of it. There's two groups that are, I think it's called Mankind or something, and they have groups, but that's just one or two options in the wealth of different women's circles that there are, and red tents and whatnot that women go to. And we can have girls' night, we can have girls' date and whatnot, and we can talk about what we're feeling and oh my god, this and that. But guys are like, oh, did you see the game the other day? Yeah, they can get angry and they can be passionate about sports, and sports is their outlet. But other than that, and music, there's very few outlets for them to express themselves. And I totally agree with you. There needs to be more. And I feel the patriarchy has been a big part of that, where, okay, there's the whole hierarchy, but it's disenfranchised, not just women, but men as well, too.
Oh, totally. It's totally a form of oppression. But yeah, so my experience personally in my life is, now that I've learned how to love myself, I have a lot to give. It's not pie. Like, I have plenty. I can keep printing more. And so I tend to attract people who are on that same journey. And I also tend to attract people who have sort of like woken up in their 40s, like me, and gone, oh, well, maybe I should learn how to take care of myself. Maybe I should learn how to give myself what I really need here. Like, what even is that? And start exploring it. And a lot of these men are in long-term committed relationships that have never served them, and they've been kind of shut down in one area of their lives. And then the goal has been to be as successful as possible financially, be as stable as possible in their family, to just sort of be a breadwinner and toe the line and not really get their needs met. It's kind of a hollow victory. That's where it's lonely at the top. And it's like, I kind of wish people would achieve this sooner in their lives. I kind of wish I had achieved it sooner, but at least I've achieved it now before my life's over, right? Where you realize, like, it's not money. It's not a heteronormative traditional marriage. It's not a specific type of person. Like, you don't have to check those boxes. You just have to be yourself. That's not the goal. It needs to never be the goal. But once you get all that superficial success, you start to realize, like, if this is all there is, I'm bored. Like, this isn't life. And really, I think when you start focusing on like self-love and self-care with these love languages, these are a really good place to start, because it's a low-hanging fruit to identify a point of physical touch. And you don't need to be in a relationship. You don't need to have another person there to have physical touch be your love language. I think pets are a really good idea. I have 2 cats and a dog, and I will tell you, it's pretty essential for my existence to have them around, because there's a physical touch component to that, just like physical closeness. It's not sexual. It's not tactile necessarily. It's more like the feeling of life itself, of like having other lives around you and figuring out how to peacefully coexist and have that balance, that harmony of existence closely. I'm also the oldest of 6 kids. I think I learned physical touch just like, sitting next to all these kids at dinner every night. I think I just like having people around.
Oh, sure.
That's part of it. And then the quality time thing, like, you really can just set like a regular date night, or with my partner and I, we go for a walk every night. We go walk the dog. And the whole theme of 9 o'clock walkies is be each other's peace. And sort of we just unload about the day, but we do it in this very calm, very chill, like, this is the baseline of our relationship. And that's really, to me, like loads of quality time and exactly what I need every day to just button up the day and be like, all right, I'm done. Let's rest. And then words of affirmation. I get a lot of words of affirmation from my partner, but I get it from other people too. And I'm realizing I didn't used to recognize it for what it was. I was just like, oh, this is overwhelming. Like, why are you saying this to me? Like, I couldn't let it in. Someone would be like, I love you. And I'd be like, okay, I love you too. What do I do? Or just like anybody giving me a compliment, which I think is a point of like, if you want to know where your self-love is, have someone give you a genuine compliment that's really heartfelt about who you are, and see what level you are at receiving that, because you'll know immediately how much you internally agree with that.
Absolutely.
But I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, thanks, like, yeah, duh, I'm awesome. But not in like a downplaying them. I'm just like, yeah, thank you. Like, I'm letting it in. And also, I don't feel like I have to immediately reciprocate it, which is another big thing. Sometimes people deflect by trying to give it back. Like, oh, I don't think you even catch it necessarily. If you wait a beat, you'll catch it, because it'll be like someone gives you a gift card and you're like, oh, how do I buy something for somebody else with this? Or I have to spend it really fast. It's like, okay, you suck at receiving. There's a huge lack of self-love there.
Even if there's like a compliment and you say, oh yeah, thank you. You're not actually taking in the compliment. It's like hot potato. Oh, you give me a compliment, I'm going to give you back. It's like, no, thank you. When you're saying, you're the compliment that you were being given, you're like, oh yeah, I am great, or I am awesome, and yeah, thank you. Like, really taking a second to receive that. I struggle with that too, and I realized I wasn't that good of a receiver. And so when someone would give me a compliment, I would say thank you, and I would try to take a deep breath as if I were trying to breathe that into my body so that I could try to receive it better. Yeah. And then I could say, oh, okay, thank you for that, and then move on. But giving yourself that moment to actually receive it is super important. Yeah, very good point.
Yeah. On the heels of that, concretely speaking, the moment I realized I was on the verge of self-love, or I was getting ready to be there, was a few months ago, when someone I really look up to really saw me and acknowledged that. And I didn't respond well, but I didn't really respond either. I was just like, whoa, that's really what you see, genuinely. Like, whoa, who am I that that's my life? How did I generate that? And the realization that it's so different from me in the past, and it's also so different from the norm. Like, whoa, I can let this in now. I don't know what to do with it yet, but I can let it in. Just like marveling at that and bringing wonder and curiosity to it. Those are my other love languages that I added on: wonder, curiosity, and adventure. I've always loved adventure. Even when I was a little kid, I remember I'd have birthday parties and we'd end up running around the neighborhood having squirt gun fights and stuff. I just wanted it to be like an adventure, a whole arc.
There's this meditation that I was doing with some friends, and they said, well, who are you? And spontaneously, this voice was like, I'm a badass MF. And I was like, okay, yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
I was like, oh, wow, okay, that's very different from what I used to think about myself. I think I've grown. Elise, do you have any closing thoughts about self-love and love languages and all that fun stuff?
My sister and I were talking about this recently, and she's like, just give me your equation, because she knows me. I systemize things and I have equations. I have a finance degree. So my equation for getting to self-love is, first, you prioritize feeling good in your body. Just like right now in the moment, like whatever it is you're doing, do it with the priority of feeling good in your body. And then that kind of feeds into self-care routines. Like you have habits of just like, here's the baseline. I'm always going to do this. I'm always going to take care of myself. I'm always going to brush my teeth. I'm always going to get as much sleep as I can get, but the minimum is 7 hours or whatever. And if I don't get it, then I'll figure it out. I'll make a plan to get it soon. But pretty consistently, I drink enough water. And I always have a plan for how I'm going to eat. And I always have a plan for if someone has new responsibilities or expectations to put upon me. Like if I have a hard time saying no. So I always just give myself like a time to discuss it with them or to think about it later. Like I always defer it. But really prioritizing feeling good in your body, in the moment that you start thinking about, I want to love myself more, you got to go, how do I make doing the dishes feel good? How do I make this moment feel good for me? How do I connect emotionally with that? And then building self-care habits. And then eventually that really does turn into an internal relationship where you have a really clear idea what lights you up and what doesn't. And you have clear boundaries with yourself about how you take care of yourself in that, how you build a relationship with yourself in that. And it's not all transactional. A lot of it is just being there with it and not feeling like you have to force yourself to do anything.
That's a solid point. Thank you so much, Elise, for your time. So Elise made a really good point when she made up a few new love languages that fit with her. So we don't have to fit into the box that other people create. We can make our own box, and we can define what our box looks like for us based on what makes us feel good. For me, it's quality time. And I think that that's the root of all of the love languages. You know, there's gifts and those are great and it's great to give and that feels good, and compliments are nice, and it's just not meaningful if it's just tossed at someone or if you're doing it so that you can get something in return. A gift and a compliment are only meaningful if there's quality time surrounding it. And I love to cook and bake goodies for others. I especially love to entertain and create a meal and experiences to help build memories with friends and family. And so I would say that that would be acts of service, but really it's the connection that happens through that act of service. And so I also appreciate words of affirmation and physical touch. And I feel like it's really good, but if there's no connection, then it's just touching. It's just words. There's nothing there. There's no substance. And so I more resonate with something I call quality connection. And I feel like that really encapsulates the quality of communication or the depth of connection needed for all the other languages to have any kind of substance. And it doesn't have to be physical or even sexual for there to be a connection. And you also don't need another person to be a part of the situation. It's a matter of the depth of connection with yourself or with another person. And it's a gift when someone can open up to us and confide in us and, tell us their troubles. And it's a gift when someone is able to sit with us during our difficult situations. And not everyone is able to do that. And not everyone has the bandwidth for that. And that's okay. But there's a lot of people who are also willing to stay superficial. And that's okay too. But it's the certain people that you can have that deep connection with and we can feel safe opening up to. And so for me, quality connection with myself looks like that I'm able to be my own rock and I'm able to listen to my true wants and needs and desires, which I think is akin to what's called reparenting. When another person is involved, the two people can be present for each other and be honest and feel a sense of safety with each other to communicate their wants and needs with each other, and that there's a healthy balance on both sides. And this could be platonic, and this could also be a romantic relationship. The next part of this episode is our integration aspect. So ask yourself the following questions. What are some moments in your life where you felt loved, or that you loved someone, or you loved a pet or a place? What did that feel like? Where did you feel it in your body? And what do you need in order for you to feel loved? What kind of love languages do you recognize from yourself or from others that help you know that you are loved? And do you have any love languages that are very specific to you? And are there any love languages that you can try to do for yourself once or twice a week? The last piece is a meditation for heart coherence. And this is something that the HeartMath Institute has done a lot of research around. And you can go to their website. And if you're driving, please don't close your eyes, but just see how you feel as you're going through this. But basically, if you sit in a comfortable position, you can draw your attention to your heart. And you can do this with your eyes open. You can just send your intention down to your heart and take deep breaths. And imagine that you're breathing into your heart. And you can also imagine a little light in the center of your heart. And with each inhalation, the light gets brighter and it expands so that eventually, after a few breaths, you're surrounded by this white light. And when it feels large enough, you can just sit with it and know that you can come back to this feeling anytime you need. And then see how it feels for you. What does it do to your mood? What does it do to your outlook or perspective? Okay, well, that's our episode for this week. Please like and subscribe. It helps this podcast more than you know. And you can always follow the Fierce Heart Alliance on social media for weekly inspiration. Next week's episode is our bonus integration episode because there's so much to say about love. Take care, Fierce Hearts. Till next time.